welcome. This is the Greater Erie Film Office in Blood Oath presents the How to Pitch panel discussion here at the Erie Horror Fest. I'm your host, Jessica Taylor from Menagerie Studio, a video production company here in Erie.
My name is Corey Cook. I'm the program director for Life Through Music, which is a nonprofit music mentoring program here in the city. And I'm also the owner-operator of Cook Media, which is a video services company based here in Erie, and also the Director of Operations and Logistics for the Erie Downtown Development Corporation.
So we just want to take the time to thank our sponsors, VNET for allowing us to host this event in this beautiful space, as well as Mill Creek Coffee Company, Lavery Brewing Company, Callie's West, and Cafe 710. There are refreshments and beverages in the back. Please help yourself at any point throughout this event. So now I would like to have the panelists introduce themselves. So let's start with you, Marc, and work our way down.
I'm Jacqueline George. The names are out of order. I'm Marc Blucas. I'm actually a local here from Girard.
Grab the microphone, please. There you go.
Don't I speak loud and obnoxious enough? All right, let me start over. So Marc Blucas, and I'm from Girard, which is about 15 minutes west of here, for those of you who don't know, and all the people that took a plane to get here. And, you know, I left Erie to go to college down in North Carolina, and after that, even though I thought I was on the track to law school, I got in my first movie, and the cliche happened. The hooks were set, and I caught the bug and ended up moving to Hollywood. And I've been fortunate enough now for however many years it's been to be able to make a career of it. And I'm thrilled to be invited in the panel, and you guys should know ahead of time that I am absolutely the amateur, novice, rookie, freshman, however you want to define it, among this group of people here. So maybe direct your questions this direction. They didn't even see me with a friend. Jackie, on to you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jackie George. They call me Jacqueline, but you can all call me Jackie. Originally from Erie, Pennsylvania, graduated from East High School, and then graduated from Edinburgh University. And I had the bug from my childhood. I had a neighbor whose dad ran the Warner Theater when it was still a movie house, and we would sneak in the back door every weekend, and I would stay all day Saturday and Sunday watching movies over and over and over again. Never got a degree in film, but I just knew it was my love. So when I finally moved to Los Angeles, of course I got a job as a bartender. So as a bartender at the Sheraton Universal Hotel, I was seen by a British producer behind the bar, and he thought I had something. And he asked me to come work for him, and as a young woman in Hollywood, I was like, yes, sure, okay. But it found out that he really was a legitimate producer, and he took me under his wing and mentored me. And from him, I learned everything from how to break down a script to working with actors. And back in the day, this was pre-computer, so we laid on the floor and made strips that went into a strip board. And that man taught me everything. He's changed my life. He saw something in me that I never saw in myself. But through determination and sheer will, I worked my way up the ladder and got my first producing credit in 1991 on Steven Seagal's Out for Justice. And from then on, I've been producing movies. Moved back to Erie several years ago after my family passed away, and I decided that I had enough of LA and I could make movies from Erie. And I'm so happy to be a part of this panel with these wonderful guys, and I'm happy to represent women. So thank you all for coming, and I look forward to your questions.
Her credit list is so daunting, just FYI, if you want to look that up. Hi, I'm Aaron B. Koontz. I am one of the founders of Blood Oath with these lovely gentlemen. I also run a company called Paper Street Pictures, where we make independent genre films. I just finished directing my fourth feature. Previous to that, we had Scare Package, that's now on Shudder, and The Pale Door, a horror western we did with Joe Lansdale. That's on through RLJ, and then Camera Obscura a few years prior to that with NBC Universal. And then we have, I don't even know, 7 or 8 films in post right now. that are all horror genre related. And, you know, we're always looking to find new talent, and we're getting pitched all the time, so kind of made sense maybe to be a part of this. But yeah, and then you can ask questions. I can tell you more about all that stuff.
All right, there we go. Hey, I'm Brandon Hill, one of the other founders of Blood Oath. I'm also in acquisitions and distribution over at Cinedigm, who owns Blade Disgusting and Screambox. And I also produced the film Nightmare Cinema with Mick Garris and Joe Dante. And I've been kind of in and around the genre space for well over a decade now. And there we go. With the distribution space as well, did a little bit in foreign sales for a while as well. But anyhow, yeah, the domestic side and really the genre side of the business is what's really been the most exciting for me. So, and kind of where Blood Oath kind of started too. So we'll dive into that a little bit further. But yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm David Guglielmo, and I am a writer, director, producer, casting director, one of the co-founders of Blood Oath. I moved out to LA about 10 years ago and had a passion project I wanted to direct, and took a long time to get going, raising money myself with my partner. And while we were shooting, kind of piecemeal, putting together this film and trying to impress investors with sizzle reels and things like that, I became close with the casting director of the film, and when I wrapped, he asked if I wanted to be his assistant. And from there, I realized I was really good at casting. So I opened up my own company about 5 years ago, and it's been going really well. I was the head of casting for the legendary horror magazine Fangoria as they went into film production, and did movies like The Seventh Day and VFW and Satanic Panic. And then when COVID hit, we weren't even sure how you could make movies. And we all got together and came up with this idea for Blood Oath, where we would make these smaller films from first or second time filmmakers that might have a hard time otherwise, definitely in the studio system, but even as an indie, I think that indies are looking more and more like studio films, and we wanted to do stuff that was just a little offbeat and idiosyncratic and had a vision. So we did, and we put together about 5 films or so during this time. A lot of them are just people in the house, but we got them done, and they're all in post now, and I couldn't be prouder to be sitting up here with these guys and with everyone, and with horror fans, because I've always been a horror fan, and I used to go to the conventions all around here, Chiller Theater, all that stuff when I was a kid. So it's a nice full circle moment, and thanks for having me.
Yep. Great. So as you can see, we have a pretty diverse perspective on the stage here today. And so we're going to get right into the first set of questions. So the first question is for you, Jackie. What does a filmmaker need to have prepared for their pitch?
Wow. Well, first of all, know your story. Know it, backwards, forwards, every which way. And also understand that you're the only person that can tell this story. Nobody else can do it. He can't do it, he can't do it, only you. So you have to have that faith in yourself, but when you go to pitch, also know who you're pitching to. Know your audience, and look at them. Look at what they've done. After I did Die Hard 2, I became a vice president at Warner Brothers. Everybody came to me, this is Die Hard in an elevator, this is Die Hard in an airplane, this is Die Hard in a bathroom. I was like, I don't even want to do Die Hard again, I already did it. So know me as well as know yourself. And also, I think, don't be afraid if that person you're pitching to maybe is a little disjointed. Maybe they had a fight with their boss 5 minutes earlier. Maybe their kid is homesick. Just don't take that also personally, and listen. Besides talking, listen. Listen to what they're saying. You may not agree with what they're saying, but listen to what they say. And then take that And I'll tell you an interesting story. Last night I watched an interview with Jason Blum. Do you all know Jason Blum from Blumhouse Productions, like the biggest horror producer on the planet? And they asked him, what 2 projects do you wish you would have taken? He said, The Conjuring and Blair Witch. He turned them down. So don't be afraid of hearing that word no, because I probably have heard it 100 times, and then that 101st person is going to say, I'm interested. So those are my points for right now. I mean, if that's enough.
Yeah, and I think that everybody's perspective here. It's like we hear a question or an answer is just like, oh, we can all extrapolate on a certain point. And I know that we've all talked about this before when we all got on the phone. Is part of that too is kind of knowing your allotted time. And what that means. Like you might be like, hey, I'm penciled in for a 20-minute meeting, which means they might have attention of 10, which means your pitch better be 6. And so you have to be so laser, and it has to be rehearsed. You just have to know it top to bottom. And I think that an interesting component, and again, these guys hear a lot more pitches than I do. I've heard a few and I've given plenty. But what I found people have responded to is your capacity to be a storyteller, even in that 5 minutes. If you're presenting your pitch, where at the end of the pitch is kind of presenting what the theme of your piece is and presents that question, where suddenly in their mind they were going to give you that 10-minute meeting, all of a sudden your 5-minute pitch is so good and asks the right questions. Next thing you know, you're in there for 45 minutes because you got them. And that's the best kind of thing you can ask for. But that initial 5 to 7 minute, what a lot of people kind of call, what's your elevator pitch? How can you do this in a few sentences so succinctly where you have a beginning, a setup, a middle, and an end that says, oh shit, that's a great idea. I want to hear what this person has to say.
On a side note, I am very curious about Die Hard in a bathroom, so, but maybe that's a pitch, right? Because somebody says that, and I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, how do you do Die Hard in a bathroom? Like, what's going on? I mean, I'm listening.
Already on the toilet. The bomb was there.
I'm listening, but I'm like, what is this? So now, like, I want that pitch. So I don't know, maybe that's an answer too? Okay, we'll talk. Anyway.
So Aaron, you actually brought some examples with you today about what to include in a pitch deck, and a couple examples that you thought were good examples of that. So do you want to talk a little bit about that, and maybe we could show?
Well, I'm biased because I helped create most of those, so you can critique them with that eye knowing. But I mean, one of the things I always say to folks is just know how many different people are pitching and how do you separate yourself from everyone else, right? So just imagine you're thinking of like, okay, I can just send the script or I can just send this idea. Well, everybody has at least that. They should have at least that. So how do you separate yourself from that? And how do you create materials? Because if I see that you've put time in those materials, then I see that I'm thinking you've put time in the script. Because all of this is to get us to read a script. That's the whole point. Because I dread reading scripts. My girlfriend's here, she can attest to this. I'm always like, oh, I gotta read the script, and I don't. And I'm putting it off, and then I have to scramble and read all these scripts really fast. But when a project comes in, we had one recently that I can't show a deck for, unfortunately, but it was so amazing. And this director, I knew their work and all of this. I was like, I got to read this now. So now I'm like itching to read that one. So, but the idea is to create materials that entice them to take a few steps further. So yeah, we have a few different ones of some movies. These aren't public things, but I can still show you all. Should I talk about them? Everybody can see these?
Please,
oh, okay, cool.
do.
This is a movie called Revealer that I just sold. And I don't know if I can say where I sold it to, but you'll figure it out soon. And this was a finished film. And if you go through this deck, that's our key art. You can just kind of see. I think the idea is immediately you want to get a feel for the colors, the tone, what's kind of going on, where this is. The concept is about two women. One is a religious protester, and then the other is she's a dancer at a peep show booth. And then the apocalypse happens, and they get stuck in the peep show booth together, and they have to kind of band together to survive the apocalypse. And it's high concept, is there. And then, just going through kind of, and we talk about the people. The writers are some famous comic book artists who did like Hack Slash and The Plot and whatnot. But anyway, the idea is just show some style. And you kind of get just everything from font choices to colors and all this. And I think you quickly start to see what the film is, really about. And what you can really kind of offer. So I thought this was a good example of, just kind of getting people excited, and it worked. I sent this deck. The distributor loved it. They're like, I want to see it. Then I sent a teaser, and it was sold very quickly, even at that. So, but this was one where we're using actual stills from the film. So that's one example of like, you're in post and you're trying to kind of take that. So I wanted to show one version of that and what that looks like. And then the next deck here is a film we just finished in January in New York called Old Man that Lucky McKee directed. We put together with Blood Oath, and Stephen Lang was the star in. So this is a totally different tonal film. We put together this deck prior to the film being financed. This was to help us with financing. But it's very simplistic. You go through, it's just about, the tone of this is it's a lost hiker in the woods, stumbles onto a cabin, and they start to have this conversation. It becomes very Twilight Zone-y of like what's going on, and tensions are rising. But again, we're using quotes from the script, because the script I think is very invigorating. Like the first, David can attest to this, who cast the movie for us, you read those first 10 pages, you're just hooked. So here I'm trying to can I get you to read those pages through some of this content that's here, and what's going on. And then little things like this that feel ominous, like the film has dread that's building the whole time. So I want the deck to kind of evoke that. And again, you can see how simple this deck is comparatively. You don't have to be an expert with this, but if you know that's the tone you're going for, it can go a long way. Again, character pages, and then we took, there's Stephen Lang, so we're highlighting, we had him attached to the movie, and then Marc Center, who's a lovely human, one of my best friends that's here as well, and talking about their background and what's going on, and this, we were able to get financing for the film. I think largely this deck and, our reputation. So I think that goes a long way. But again, I just thought these were two good examples of things that, the first one's highly stylized, the tear decks, what's there, you can see the time here, and this is much more simplistic, but both serve their purposes, and I think can be very, very helpful. Yeah. And then so the other thing that I think is important when pitching is tone reels. I love to see, if you have a proof of concept, that's great, but not everybody has the money or the time to go out and shoot that and spend the money for that, and I totally get that. So we like to put together, we call tone reels, rip-o-matics, where we just take clips from other movies, put them together thematically, and to give you an idea of the kind of tone, that we're going for. So it's about 3 minutes. It's for a movie called Dream Machine that I will be directing, and that we just edited from other movies that are inspirations to the film. And the idea is to watch this, and then, I don't know, maybe you don't want to see it after this, but hopefully you're like, I want to see that movie, after seeing this.
Did you want to play a little bit of this then?
Yeah, if you want. I don't know if you wanted to show, I don't know what John preferred, but sure. If you wanted to show it or go through it or whatever. You don't have to play it if you don't want to.
Well, a quick question while they're getting set up. How much of your project should you really have already developed before you make the step to pitch something?
There's a really good site. You can go on to Google, and I actually did that this week just to look at some pitches. Martin Scorsese does a master class, and he tells you from 1 to 6 how to pitch your project, and it's genius. It's short, it's sweet, so don't be afraid to go and look at, Martin Scorsese, come on, seriously, if I'm gonna listen to something he says. But for me, you want to give them a piece. You want to give them the spark and the interest, like you said, to really say, I need to read this script, but don't give it all away, and make sure that you've got it copyrighted. Because I've been in projects where the writer did not copyright his project with the Writers Guild of America, and 2 years later, I was like, that's his project. And so make sure you own your project before you pitch it to anybody, because things happen.
So let's
Real quick to quickly add on there, though.
okay.
When there are projects that come through that, because you'd mentioned, don't give away anything, but I will say sometimes there's been occasions where I'm looking at multiple projects that have a similar kind of feel or concept. So sometimes it's good to really know your project in and out and what makes it different, so that if those questions come up, you're ready for it, and you can say, oh, well, this is why this one's really going to stand out. And then you may not know that I've already looked at a couple other projects that are similar, but I'm going to go look at those other ones and go, which one is the best? So if you come across with a really great pitch and you have something that's really unique and different and you have it all kind of, in your head and ready to go, that's going to be really impressive for me. So just want to add that.
Real quick, before we actually see the video, I want to ask Marc, Brandon, you specifically, how to pitch. What are some of the best practices, words of advice, and kind of what's worked for you, kind of from an actor's perspective and a casting director perspective?
Well, I mean, the easy answer is rehearse. I mean, grab a couple of friends and get out there and go. I mean, it's going to start on paper, right? You're going to have an outline for what you want to say. It's kind of like writing a speech. These are my themes. This is what I kind of want to highlight. We recently, this last year, I guess a year and a half ago, before when we were actually allowed to go into rooms for meetings, whenever that was allowed before. But we were pitching a series. We went to Amazon and Paramount, and we went to a handful of buildings. And what we found the most effective for us with talking to our friends and practicing our pitch with the friends, and what became my elevator pitch, like on sets or talking to friends, hey, we're going out to pitch this show to people, was the teaser. It was like, wow, this 5 minutes right here, everybody's like, shit, that's a great idea. They're like, then what? And then you kind of know the big picture themes. It's like these guys are saying, you want there to be enough, and only, friends and family, like, I hate watching my movies with friends and family because they have no filter. They're not going to tell you you're great if you're not, and so that's who you want to practice your pitching with. Like, you have it all worked out. You know your material inside and out. When I went in, and another component of this, it's a little bit of a tangent, but it's like, because a lot of us don't have relationships. Well, I don't have a friend, but a lot of times you're like, you know what? I know one room that I can get into. I've done a handful of Hallmark movies. I know that's an easy audience for me. And right now I'm in the business of getting a yes. I'm kind of sick of hearing no. We've all heard it. It's a town that's kind of built on it, and it's a real challenge. I'm like, you know what? I can get a yes from them to go in a meeting. I wrote a Hallmark script. I had an idea. I was like, hey, guys, I have an idea. Want to hear it? They're like, sure. I went in and pitched it. They're like, wow, this is great. Are you going to try to write it? I'm like, I already did. Thanks a lot. Let me know what you think. And I already had it in my bag to go, and I had the deck, and I was all prepared. But every meeting's a little different that way. Like, you don't know. Like, that was an easy room for me because I knew those guys, and I know those people because I had a little bit of a relationship before. But so again, it's like, it's tough to answer the question fully other than to say, know your stuff inside and out. You might have a lot of tricks in your bag that you might not pull out, but at the end of the day, that 7 minutes is rehearsed upside down, backwards, and you know exactly kind of what it is, and like, here's my opening. And this probably is the biggest key, and I think this is the key that I think most actors would say for a scene. If you get the first line right, it'll just go. And so you want to have your beginning so mapped out, and then it'll just kind of flow. It's like, have your set. And I feel that way about a script. I don't know, you guys kind of the same. It's like Aaron's talking about how he hates that read. Well, guess what? If 15 pages in he still hates to read, he ain't getting to 16. It's back on the shelf. And so it's got to start like the setup. I always call it, whether it's a script or your pitch, your setup is critical because it just informs if they're going to get to the conclusion or not.
Dave, you mind touching on that?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's a little different. So when I get pitch projects, I mean, now I'm stepping into a producer capacity with Blood Oath. It's a little different. We're developing movies from the ground up. But normally, as a casting director, I get pitched movies that have more elements to them. Either they're partially financed or they're fully financed, but they're really very serious about making this movie already. And they're not waiting for someone to say yes. They've already green-lighted it themselves, basically. And so I'm looking at these pitches, basically, as a casting director, thinking, is talent going to be attracted to this? Now, it depends. There's always going to be actors that want to act, but a lot of times now in this climate, it's like, we have so many indie films, and you really need to cut through the noise. So everyone wants a name. They want a marquee name. They need value in the movie. And, they'll come to me and they'll say, hey, I have this movie. If we're talking about horror movies, it's like, if someone comes to me and says, I have a movie about humanoid zombies and I want Nicole Kidman to play the head humanoid zombie, I have to manage their expectations. And I have to say, Nicole Kidman's not playing a humanoid zombie. Now, it doesn't mean I'm not going to cast the movie. I like humanoid zombies. I'll watch that movie, and I can find the people that are going to love this and definitely want to play a humanoid zombie, but it's not going to be Nicole Kidman. But if they come to me and they say, hey, look, I have a movie that's like The Babadook, and it's a real character-driven, mother-daughter story, and, yes, it's a horror movie, but it's rooted in character, and it's kind of like, like this type of movie and that type of movie, that's, then I go, okay, let me read this and see, because that is something that I think, we can attract, A-list or, just valuable actors too. So that's the way I look at the pitches. I look at it for realism. I try to. I'm not going to take a job. I'm not going to blow smoke and say, yeah, we're going to get Nicole Kidman. Just pay me, and then the wire transfer hits, and I'm like, look, guys, you're not getting Nicole Kidman. I got to tell them up front, what their movie is, what budget they should be making it for, because sometimes they come to me and they say, yeah, it's an $8 million movie, and I say, no, it's not. Nobody's making this movie for $8 million. That's kind of, I look at it through that perspective, just, realism.
I think it's important to delineate, though, too, pitching has changed so much that there are these in-room pitches, I think is one facet, but most of the pitches I'm getting right now are not in-room pitches. So especially as you're trying to kind of connect and break through to folks you don't know, it's really going to be in that email. And that's why I think, so just to kind of like separate what we're about to show in some of these decks, you're not going to necessarily walk into a room and go through the deck. You're walking in the room, they're interviewing you, they're talking to you, they want to feel your passion and what's there. And that's what you're kind of articulating very nicely here about what those options are. But then there's also the cold email that comes in, or the referred email that comes in, and it has these three attachments. And you click and you just scroll through. And that's what I do. I mean, right now during this meeting, I guarantee you someone is emailing me and there's a script, a log line, a thing, it's coming. And you can't send the script, right off the bat. You should know that, right? So you can send information about it or a little summary, but you can't send the actual script because we have to delete those. But we can request the script from you. So I go through, I see a deck, I just scroll through. If there's a tone reel, I'm like, oh, I'll click the link. I'll start watching and see if I'm intrigued. And then that's what kind of continues to do that. Then you'll get on a Zoom, and then at that point you get to talk. We're already interested, and that's something to kind of keep in mind too. These people do need you. We need content. Everybody needs content. So you come from a place of power as well. But just know, pitching there's a variety of different types of pitches. It's not all just, I need to go to this place in person and say these things. That is absolutely one, especially with studios. But when it comes to indies, I think it's what you can do in your email and how to format that, how to say the right things, and how to put the right attachments and information there.
Aaron, I think it would be appropriate if we can tell them about the video and what we're working on. It's a unique situation where she didn't really know she was pitching, but
Oh, you mean the TikTok thing?
I think we should tell them about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So someone sent Aaron a TikTok video. And it's this girl who basically has all of these kind of high concept ideas for movies, and she tells it, she's very excited about it, and she says, guys, I have an idea for a movie. It takes place here. It's like this, blah, 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 and it is really very intriguing, and the passion that she puts behind it, she gets very, very into it. We loved it. We thought, well, first of all, I'd see that movie, but also I really like her personality and I really like her enthusiasm. Let's get on a call with her and see if this movie actually has legs or if it's just kind of, it doesn't go beyond the concept. So we got on a Zoom and she's like, yeah, it could go in this direction, it can go in that direction. But we saw that there was a lot of potential and that this was actually a movie. It wasn't just an idea, because I can come up with a high concept right now. It doesn't mean I can actually fully flesh it out, But this one, you could. So we went ahead and optioned it, and now we're developing it, and we got writers on board doing the script, and we're going to announce it soon. But this is like she didn't know she was pitching, but she was pitching. Well,
but then the interesting thing about this is, so when my friend sent me the link, I was like, that's great, but this person's probably crazy, I don't know if I want to work with this person. I have no idea. So part of it was just vetting, because keep in mind, that's you selling yourself. We are making a decision if we want to work with you and talk to you all the time for the next 2 years. Yeah. Right? So be cool, be someone that we want to be around. And this, yeah, right. And so this individual, and then we got on with her, and we could just feel that passion wasn't just for her video. There was so much more that she was trying to say. And
she's funny, and I think levity is a big thing, and that's like, you know, we're making movies, we're not curing cancer, so like I know that you think your idea is like this needs to be made, and maybe it does, but like, you know, you also have to kind of realize that this is we're in a place of privilege to be able to be making these movies, and it's about having fun, and you know, like she was really kind of, she was having fun. The fun was, so then I thought if the movie could be as much fun to watch as this pitch, then that's a good movie.
All right, great. And from there, we're gonna actually take a look at the screens. We're gonna pull up the video, and then we'll get back into the discussion.
Change a lot or just a bit?
He's been working on this thing for 6 years. There's material out there to find if you dig deep.
What, do you want me to be specific here in this room with half the scientific community of North America eavesdropping?
Is there another way?
You could come back to my lab.
Somehow I get the feeling you don't get out much.
You can tell that.
We're friends, aren't we? Always. You want to see something cool? Sometimes the mind behaves as if we're in a dream. Faces change. People become other people. The subconscious is a powerful thing. Can you tell the difference between dreams and reality?
Of course, can you?
Do you know what derangement is?
I know that. You know that.
I thought this was personal. You can't write about this.
I'm a journalist. You knew that.
Don't you dare write a story. I'd never have told any of this stuff to a journalist.
What's this supposed to mean?
It means that I'm your editor and I'm shaping your material into a story.
But this is not your story. It's mine.
I sent you to the bar talk party to see what you could find. Your discovery is my discovery.
I used to live with status farms.
What are you talking about?
Are you attracted to me?
You're a fucking drag, you know that?
Something went wrong, Seth. When you went through, something went wrong.
Is he still in love with?
How could he not be?
Ooh. You're jealous! I've become free. I've been released, and you can't stand it.
You've got to get some help. I think you must be sick.
You've been charged with murder. There is no murder! I was your only friend.
Sorry, real.
You know, I wrote down that other line you came up with. The one about how I haven't been to the machine with consciousness, I'm not a man, I'm God.
I don't think that's exactly
I just thought, fuck, man, that is so good when we get to tell the story, you know?
I think the world should know about it now. And I think I should be the one to tell it.
A complete record of the most earth-shattering invention ever. The one that ended all concepts of transport, of borders and frontiers, of time and space.
Oh, thanks. So the idea is, like, you can already kind of get an idea of what is this movie really about, right? And you're trying to put together these references. And you're like, oh, I like that movie. I like that movie. What do those things mean? And hopefully it's getting you excited about knowing more, and you want to read the script. And it's about a man who suffers from, you know, some problems dreaming, and he creates a machine that can control his dreams. And then he has a relationship, and then becomes this triangle, or becomes obsessed with the machine, and then a murder takes place, in his dream, and he doesn't know if it was real or not. And then he goes in the machine to and it goes deeper and deeper, and it becomes this like wild, unraveling. And so it's a fun script, and there's a lot that's there, but the idea was like, how do you evoke that kind of emotion, get an idea? Also, use MNE3 for your music. That always helps a lot. That's a trick, by the way. Music choice goes a long way, and find something you can edit to with those beats. But yeah, and we've had a lot of interest from just that, that alone.
Well, thank you for bringing that. So we actually have 2 pitch examples that are going to be presented to you guys today. So we're going to take a short break so they can get set up for that, and then we'll get back into the discussion.
Test 1, test 2, test 1, test 2. Good? Awesome? All right.
Hi everyone, we are going to get started again here in just another minute or 2. This is also a last call for any questions you may have written on your note cards. If you can please, when you're back to your seats, pass those down to the end of the aisle. Someone will be around to collect them. Thank you. Hi everyone, if you could pass your note cards down this way to the end of the aisle, someone will be around to collect them.
Hey, nobody's seen this movie. Yeah. You ever seen Prison? You ever seen Prison with Lane Smith? Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I have some ideas for it too, by the way. I have a couple. I'll run by you. Yeah. Pitch them to you. But Prison's good.
John, are we about ready to get going? Okie doke.
Thumbs up right there.
All right. So first up, we have a pitch by Parker Colt and Leah Pluff. So I'm going to pass the mic over to them and hear what they have to say.
Is this on? Okay, good. I could probably move it up a little bit.
Yeah, if you guys want to, you can swing the mic around a little bit so you can face the audience a bit more.
Okay. All right, hi, my name is Leah. I am a filmmaker and a part of a local production company called Menagerie Studio.
Hi, I'm Parker. I'm a local filmmaker from Brooklyn, and I've been working in the film industry for about 15 years now.
And so I'm going to give you a little synopsis of the show beforehand, before passing it off to the creator of the show, Parker, to talk a little bit more about the characters and world building and all that jazz. So our show is called The Eerie Crowd. It's a horror comedy sitcom that takes place on a college campus with a magical past located in the history-rich New England area. Vic, our main audience perspective, is starting his freshman year at the college, quickly noticing an otherworldly, zealous school spirit. He soon falls into a dark maze of macabre hobbies held by Chaz, a vampire from the campus's first fraternity, Reggie, a disillusioned ghost from the college's first graduating class, and Sarah, a Salem-era witch who leads a coven posing as a sorority. You will also meet all their friends along the way. Each episode will feature its own conflict that centers around bits of the supernatural character's backstory, what makes the campus significant, how the four main characters interact, and what makes Vic so special and enticing to the magical characters. Each character's powers and backstory act as allegories for broader topics such as gender identity, queerness, gender norms, and overall otherness in the setting of a college campus where everyone's trying to discover who they are. Currently, this project is in the early development stage. While we have broad concepts and characters we'd like to tackle, we're hoping to assemble a team of diverse writers to help us authentically flesh out the story, characters, and themes. Now I want to pass it off to Parker to talk a little bit more about it.
Thanks, Leah.
You're welcome.
So, hello everybody, how y'all doing today? So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit more about the story of The Eerie Crowd, a coming-of-age story for immortals that challenges what is normal. So to start, like I said, it's more of a coming-of-age story involving immortals, so you would think they've all grown up by now, but you'd be surprised what happens in life. So our story centers around a character named Vic, who's a college student just getting involved with everything in life, and he's trying to find his own way. And he quickly finds himself at a party where he meets Chaz the Vampire, who, as we said before, is part of one of the first fraternities on the campus. He was turned into a vampire during a prank and subsequently locked in a coffin for hundreds of years and released by the contemporary owners of the house that he was hidden in for some time. And then Vic also meets someone, as you said before, someone named Sarah. She's a witch who's been around since Salem era times. She's kind of the boss lady of her crew, of her sorority, who is posing, or of the coven that's posing as a sorority, excuse me. And basically, they're both interested in Vic because they have their own sets of macabre hobbies. Chaz is your basic, he could be best described as a hipster. He, likes everything DIY, is trying very hard to reacclimate to society and fit in. And he's got his sights set on Vic because he wants to make a homebrew DIY blood wine. Whereas Sarah, the witch, has her sights set on Vic because she needs to make a plant to sustain her immortality using his youthful blood. As we mentioned, you'll meet a lot of characters along the way, one being Reggie, who is Chaz's roommate. Reggie is also part of the first graduating class of this college campus. He died from partying too hard and is generally, in terms of production, just a voice. He's kind of a narrator character who takes on whatever form they need to, because being a ghost, they don't really consider they have an identity. A little bit about the world that they'll be living in. The college campus would be a typical college campus with some magical quirks here and there, monsters and humans interacting without any explanation as to why, really. The frat house where Chaz lives and became a vampire would be more or less the center point of the story. A lot of the main plot details would happen there, generally during parties. We'll find out that this house has its own slew of history and stories and characters who you don't immediately meet, but are influencing everything that's happening in front of you. Another place that we'll see a lot of is the sorority house, which is actually where the coven is located. This is kind of a place that is very eclectic but beautiful. You kind of feel lucky being there. And then finally, the town that this all takes place in is your basic college town that isn't totally paying enough attention to what's going on, likes it that way, definitely has its own quirks. One of the places we were thinking was actually here in Eerie, because we've got the Tomb of the Vampire. There's an actual witch's circle that was buried in a graveyard here with a bunch of unmarked graves, and it's a college town. We also thought it'd be a fun play on the name Eerie Crowd. Anyway, that's our short synopsis. We hope you enjoy the idea, and hope you're having a good time today.
Thank you guys very much. So if you guys wanted to give just a little bit of feedback for them, that would be great.
Thank you, first of all, for presenting that to us and pitching it to us. I think if you can be off book, do you know what that means to be off book? It would be really a lot better, because you're talking right to us rather than looking down at your notes, both of you. And I think I would have started with you, Parker. Okay. We've got to talk about the concept first. We don't care about the characters at the beginning. Okay. We want to be drawn into the concept and explain. Not everybody's from Erie, Pennsylvania, or even know about us. So you have to let us know why it's an Eerie crowd, why it's Eerie Crowd. But start with your concept and blow us out of the water, like we had said, in those first couple of minutes, and then you can get into locations or character as the person you're pitching to asks. So I think you need work on that a little bit. Be stronger, be a little bit more enthusiastic.
Sure.
It's a really good, interesting project. I'm interested, but I think the two of you just need to be off book and be a little bit more direct with what the project is first off.
Right.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, look, I think you have a wonderful high concept, right? And I think that's a great thing. I think that if I were to advise you on how to pitch this, a way that you could rephrase maybe some of the things you were doing, because the content's really good, but maybe start with something like, imagine the characters, the quirky characters of What We Do in Shadows going through Perks of Being a Wallflower, right? And this idea of, and I know some people are afraid of this meets this can be problematic, but when you say those two movies, you start to imagine what's there. And then start right off the bat, it's like, so that's a college campus, and there's witches, there's ghouls, there's ghosts, there's this, and they're all coming together trying to live. You know how tough it is to go through college already. Imagine now being, and these represent different demographics and what that means, and you can talk about the gender politics and how that plays into the different types of tropes that exist within that. And now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I can imagine this. Also, by the way, coincidentally, two of my favorite movie concepts in the world are horror comedy and coming of age. So I think merging those two together is really great and finding a way to lean into that. Also, don't be, and I know this is like not a formal thing, right? We're figuring stuff out here, so, but don't, you reference some things where you were talking and then I start reading. So then I'm not listening here, I'm missing things you're saying because I start to read ahead and what's going on. Text, I wouldn't put, if you were pitching that way, I wouldn't even put a lot of text. It would all be imagery. You describe some things here in Eerie, I have no idea what those things are. Right. They sound cool, show me a picture of them. Okay. And then characters, like, you know, Jacqueline's right, like I think you start off with this concept, and when you get into characters, show me references, just boom, like, oh, that's Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I get it. I can picture her on a college campus. I can picture how she interacts with people. I see that image, I know what that means. Kind of like in a tone reel where there's certain characters that we had in there for Dream Machine, you're like, I could picture what that person is if you knew kind of how they applied. But those visuals.
I think you need to colorize too. If you're going to show pictures, colorize those characters because those were just black and white sketches and they didn't pop out. Okay. You know, so really grab us with a visual rather than words.
Okay, thank you. And I think that, you know, I had the same exact thought that you guys had, which is, and how I was going to say it was separating, even though everything has to be so specific and rehearsed and thought out, it's separating the micro from the macro. Okay. Right? And I like the idea, and what Aaron was just, what Jackie, they were just describing, it was like, start macro. Thematically, this is the world, imagine this. And it's like you have a collision of things where people can see the concept. Then you can start to get micro into character and moments, and this is the world, because they're already hooked into the idea. And it's just like, even the way Aaron said it, and I would steal it, is to say, you know what, I love this idea of blending horror and comedy and coming of age. And that was the impetus for us. So when we put this together, and if you can imagine this all taking place in this place, and if you think of this movie and you find a way to drop it in and coming out passionate and off book and all of these things, someone's like, well, fuck, who are the people who are in this story? Right. Like they sit, you know, you want this move, not that move. Right. Right? Okay. And it's like what they're saying, and that level of specificity is figuring out, because there was also some repetition in what you guys said. You were both talking some, like, there's this character and kind of in this, so you really want to know when it's a two-handed pitch like this, to know your roles and who's going to say what. You don't need to beat the audience over the head with repeating that. It's just like, hey, I'll start with the macro, I'll present the world. Bam, then you can tag team in another effective way, and it's all based kind of on personality. Is maybe it's not I get 4 minutes and I get 4 minutes. It's like, boom, I'll do the macro. Boom, when I finish with the world, after this sentence, you're jumping in and you're going to talk about this person, and when they collide with that, and maybe there's a mini scene or something that you know, it's like, this is a great moment. It's just like, then when we have this one moment that's really great and you get specific, and it hooks people in to that world that you thought of it in that way. Okay, thank you.
One more thing too is, before you're pitching, sit down with a group of friends and pitch this to everybody you know, because you're going to become more familiar with it, and they're going to throw some of these same comments out to you. Okay. So pitch it until you know this perfectly without even looking down at your notes. Don't be afraid. Do a script read. Do a read through. Pitch, pitch, pitch until you're so comfortable that all of this is second nature to you. Okay.
Brandon, David, do you have anything?
Yeah. So, you know, this is a comedy. So one of the things I kind of noted was, well, you know, why don't you make this pitch funny? Because I felt like there needed to be, like, it was kind of cut and dry, here's what it is, and that's great, and I like to know all those details too, but throw in some bits that are, and Marc started to touch on it, like being specific about a certain scene that maybe is really great, but I think, you know, just make this pitch really lively and funny and crackle so that we can say, okay, clearly the script is going to have some of these bits in here, and we like this team. So I think that's part of it. And the other thing for me, and one of the things I always ask with series is, how is this series going to progress through the years? So I want to see like this has legs. I want to kind of see, even though it's a short pitch, I get it. Give me a little more detail on where you see this going, how it's going to develop, you know, and really excite me to want to come on board for multiple seasons and see this through. Just like what we do in the Shadows, you know, that had solid IP to start with, great creative team already, but you know. When I was watching the movie, I wouldn't necessarily said, "Oh, this is going to be a great series," but they figured it out, and it plays really well, and it's still really, really good. So, yeah. So that's kind of my point.
And I wouldn't even don't even let, you know, that's not an intimidating thing. That can be a sentence,
right?
You know. And so we see season 1, he does join, he rushes his fraternity, he gets his pledge pin, and so season 1 ends with him having to do this thing, but now he's in the fraternity. So at that point, season 2 would pick up to ABC. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, definitely.
like you said, you're just. It used to be, and this is pre-streaming, but it was like they wanted to see, show me 100 episodes.
Okay.
Like, give me an idea that I can make 100 episodes out of.
Right.
You know, and that's why Seinfeld always had the classic joke of, like, we went and pitched a show about nothing.
Right.
Because the business kept saying, you have to show me 100 episodes, you know? And so he needs to see, like, in a series like this, you have to see a future, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, I'd just say, you know, it reminded me a lot of Sabrina, and that's not a bad thing because Sabrina's very popular and it just got renewed for another season. I'd figure out what your twist is, how are you different, and you can lean into it, but you could say, but here's how it's different.
Sure.
And I also think, like, you know, what Brandon said, it's a comedy, but I don't know, there's so many different types of comedy. I don't know if it's slapstick, I don't know if it's clever, if they're, you know, try to incorporate what brand of comedy, you know. So if it's like a Taika Waititi thing, then you say that. It's like, you know, The Shadows. But let us know because it's so broad right now.
Right. Yeah. We're definitely still developing. I was very pleased to hear you reference Perks of a Wallflower and What We Do in the Shadows because those were two main focal inspirations for this. So.
Well, and keep in mind what Jacqueline said as well, which I think is important at the very beginning, which was you have to be the only people that can tell the story.
Right.
So I love to incorporate a personal story into the pitch.
Right.
So, and you can say, have you ever been there? I remember a time I did this. This happened, and then that reminded me of this. That led to this story. That story is now in this series, movie, whatever. Mm-hmm. So you have those opportunities. So find a way to personalize it, because that ties it. It's like, oh, this is really passionate for them. And then you need to be having fun. You know,
right.
You need to be having fun because, like, to get to do this is the greatest thing in the world. But as you practice and as you continue to do that, you do have to be ready to pitch at a moment's notice.
Right.
So it's like, oh, here's my opportunity. That's called an elevator pitch because, oh shit, this person's in the elevator with me right now.
2 minutes.
I gotta go. This is my opportunity. I gotta make it happen. So the more you've practiced it and you're ready for that, it's like you can just look at each other and like, okay. And I love like kind of what you were saying, like you just jump in. It's like, and that's when this person does this, and then that's when this happens. And then do you remember this in high school? I remember this. This was such a horrible thing to do, or in college, or whatever. And I felt this way. We've all felt that way. Well, this character now is going through this journey because of it, and you get to kind of watch that unravel.
I have a question real quick. Are pitches usually conversational, or is it just a pitch? You wait till they're done, and then you give feedback?
It depends. I felt the need. I wanted to ask questions. I will say that. There were moments, and I think in a different setting, I would have been like, wait, back up. What was that? Like, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. Tell me more about that. Like, I would have definitely done that in a, more formal setting.
And I think one more thing, since we are in Erie and we have so many universities here, show those. Show those on camera instead of putting text on there.
Right.
Show Mercyhurst or Gannon or Edinburgh or Penn State, because you're showing Erie, but you're also showing the text of where this is all going to happen.
Right.
So show us where we're going.
Okay.
With your pitch.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, great. Can we give them a round of applause? Thank you. So our next example pitch is going to be by Jim Morton and Jesse. What to say, Jesse?
Olszewski.
There we go.
And we dressed up for the pitch.
Nice shoes.
Thank you. I'm Ron Burgundy. So this project we're going to talk about is called Blinded. It's a project Jim and I both wrote, and then we just directed a POC. We shot it just a month ago, edited all month, Many of our crew are here in this room. It's going to be playing right after this at 3 p.m. next door. So you are about to hear some major spoilers, just so you know. But in this world of Blinded, the entire population went blind, and our story opens 2 years to the day. So if you can imagine, this all happened in one moment globally. Anyone who was in a car, anyone who was in a plane, the death toll was very high. So not only in this aftermath is everyone trying to survive, it's also the greatest tragedy in human history. And we have a short clip of our POC that we are going to watch right now.
What's wrong? It got worse last night. It's this sharp pain behind my eyes now. Give Hank my best, okay?
Instead, he asked us to trust in him. Asked us to trust in him by taking away our sight. We have been blessed. The new world is upon us. And to walk through it, we must simply trust in his plan.
So that's the big reveal. And now we'll get into the spoilers of what actually happened, because you should leave the POC really having more questions than answers. Who wrote the writing? Why did her sight return? All of these things. And Jim is going to talk a little bit about how everyone went blind.
So we figured that with everybody going blind all at one time, there has to be some kind of mass global reason to do that. And we figured everybody went blind because of the fear frequency. That's what it's called. I'm sorry. Fear frequency. It's at 19 hertz. It's inaudible to human ears, but it affects the human brain, and it can cause blindness. It can cause paranoia. It can cause fear. That's why it's called the fear frequency. And there is a mastermind behind this thing that sends out this frequency to the entire world all at once, makes everybody go blind, and chaos ensues.
So the signal, it's grounded in science. We're taking some liberties, but essentially there's a corrupt science government that is responsible for all of this. It's a way to control the population. And then we have this girl, her sight returns. We start to see some really striking images once her sight returns. She goes out into the city squares where people go to get food and clothing from the government, and there are these peacekeeper, infantry-type people who have very pleasant voices, but now that she can see, they're very distorted. They're almost cybernetic. It's heavy on sci-fi. These conscripts have been enlisted by this government and are used to specifically find out if anyone can see. She starts seeing that these soldiers are shining lights in blind people's eyes. They're looking for seeing people. She is intercepted by a resistance faction that kind of takes her under her wing. She's total fish out of water at this point. She can see again. She has just been told that this was all planned. This resistance knows about this, and they're saying, this evil force is what's causing all this. So through events, she ends up kind of joining the fight, reluctantly at first, but there's some deaths. She feels responsible, and she feels that she can do something. As we get towards the end, towards the climax, they're heading to the main broadcast center. The signals are getting stronger. The resistance does have a way to temporarily block this signal using artificial equipment, but she is immune to this signal, and it's kind of the thing that makes her special in the story, and it's kind of up to her to stop all of this and get the world back to where it used to be. The end climax is with this evil scientist who has an ulterior motive. He, under the guise of controlling the world and getting soldiers and resources to pull this off, about his backstory, but he essentially had this forced on him in a lab when he was a child, this frequency. It kind of elevated his perception of reality, and he is on this kind of crazy crusade to evolve humanity and get them to experience what he's experiencing. They have a kind of showdown at the end, and she ends up overpowering him and feeling that same frequency in full force, but she takes the high route, through the events of the story, rather than succumbing to the frequency and going to that kind of insane level. She is able to overcome it and stops the signal. Anything you want to add?
Great, thank you guys very much.
That's Blinded.
Very much.
Yep.
Why don't you guys start and give some of your feedback?
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't clear if this is a movie or a show.
A feature.
It's a feature film. Okay. Yeah. I guess my comment is the same as the last one, where it sounds a lot like Blindness, the Julianne Moore movie. So I guess I don't remember correctly if that had an oppressive government element. So maybe this is the twist on that. But yeah, it seemed familiar to me in that respect. But you did a really good job pitching it. I think that you articulately told every beat of the story, and it was evocative. I got the images in my head, so I think you're a good pitcher. The story, I want to know really what makes this one special, and also if there's an overarching kind of message to it, and there doesn't need to be, but usually with themes of government or it seems like sometimes there's a social message or a political message or something like that. So just wondering, that would be a question that I would ask you.
Yeah, two things. First, we talked so much about Blindness with Julianne Moore.
Yeah.
After carefully looking at that film, we feel that that's more of like a Lord of the Flies. There's no science fiction elements to it. There's a virus, and then it becomes kind of like a city-state where everyone is just trying to get one up on someone else. So what we think sets ours apart is the sci-fi elements to it. And that is something I forgot to mention. When we were talking about something that affects the world globally, we were kind of thinking a lot of parallels with the current pandemic situation and how it's politicized. In the POC, there's a rogue faction that's very religious, which you could kind of hear on the radio. You also have the government faction who is there to help people. Then you find out they're actually evil. So in the story, there are some subplot characters who are kind of it's just very polarized, the whole landscape of why this happened, how we're going to get through it, and we're trying to highlight that through these different characters, if that
Yeah, it does. It makes sense. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out and I'm trying to figure out if we're gonna have more escapism or if we're gonna make movies that are really on the nose in this time. Personally, I would like the former, but it's yet to be seen. So if it's the latter, then you're in luck. I don't know if I would want to produce it personally, but that's my taste. So like, because it seems like, you know, it's going to touch on a lot of things that we're talking about right now, which, I mean, you know, that to someone else, they're going to think it's like super relevant and they're going to jump right on board. But that's you know, my personal
Well, I would say if there's a way we can kind of, you know, stay on the edge of the sword and have those themes kind of be felt but not overtly shown, if that makes sense. Like you could make a conclusion after watching it, oh, that's kind of like this situation that's happening in real life, but someone else might just say, this is just a cool sci-fi story.
Yes. I think that your video should have more of the fun and games. So like, for me, the fun and games is she gets taken in by the resistance, and now we see the outside world. We see how the government is running this, you know, this operation, and obviously she can see, and they can't. So the, you know, that to me that would be the video. You had a lot of the misery, and then one thing at the end, which I thought, oh, okay, that's where the movie starts. But why don't you just start there?
I was going to suggest stylizing that. So I think I'm intrigued to watch the short, number one. So that's a good thing. But I will say also that I think this should have been more of a trailer for that, and it should be stylized and feel like evoke some emotion again, use music, and just kind of like lead us on a path to that revealing moment of her in the hallway. That's what there, because there were things, as David was saying, there are things we already knew. Like I understand, like, you know, I can already picture what she'd be going like in the frustration that's there. So we kind of know that going into it. We can kind of fill in those blanks on our own. So what makes it unique and what's about that? So I think stylizing that can go a long way as well.
Yeah, and actually, my note was pretty much exactly what David had said, in the sense that the first thing that came to mind was blindness, which, you know, I think as a concept, like, look, I actually didn't love blindness. I thought there was a lot of room for maybe a different, you know, approach to it. So I think that's cool that you're kind of attempting that. But, you know, based on the video that we just watched, I kind of have similar notes where the first thing I think is blindness, and then it never really progressed from there. I was trying to kind of waiting for that twist. And you have stuff, as you start explaining the pitch, you have elements there that I think you can pull into, but I think they're just not there yet in the video. So for me, it was a little unclear, and I just wasn't really sure what to make of it yet.
Also, I'll say one more thing. It's, you know, they always tell you not to comp a movie that didn't do well. So I would look at the box office of Blindness, because I don't think it did. So maybe your comp is like, Bird Box.
Bird Box, yes.
You know, just switch it. Say it's Bird Box.
Okay. Jesse, you know, you and I know each other, and I know what a great filmmaker you are from your work in Eerie. And I know you had a very short post on this, but music would have done hands and feet above this. Okay. And I agree with you guys. Start with her with the writing on down the wall. But you want to grab people with the music. You know, it would bring us so much more into it. And what you were saying after your pitch actually grabbed me more than your pitch itself. Okay. So, I know what you're capable of doing, and I know how little time you had, so I applaud you, but I still think it needs some more work. And I think music would help you a lot. Okay?
You know, Jesse, I was really impressed. I thought you guys both did a nice job in communicating what it was, and especially after you get a little bit of criticism here and some challenging statements that you could shut down.
We knew someone was going to bring up blindness. We were ready.
Well, sure, and again, that's your homework and rehearsal time, and so you did it. You were able to address it, and you know, one of the things I thought, but again, I'm going to keep hammering this kind of like setup thing. It's just like, again, the world, whether someone thinks of another movie or not, we're all reinventing the wheel. Let's not kid ourselves. There's very few amazing original ideas out there. It's just like you're set up for, imagine your day this morning. What did you do? You got up, you had breakfast, you jumped in the car. Imagine if you were on the corner of Peach and 10th over here, and right then you went blind. And imagine if that happened to all the world at the same time. And as silly as it sounds, it's rooted in silence. It's this thing called the fear frequency, and it is a real thing. And if you can imagine that, you know what I mean? And now you go into your piece, and I think that as you look at your pitch, like Brandon said, you had elements in there, you're like, oh, that was an interesting sentence, but I didn't feel like it was highlighted in the pitch. So when you go through your pitch, it's like, wait, this is an act break. Like right here is that moment where like, we need to hit this story point. So what are the 3 facets of character and story that are gonna take them there to this point where then I can say, and then in this moment, she gets her sight back and realizes there's agents out there looking to see. So now she has to pretend that she doesn't have it. And now I'm like, oh shit, that's a great little twist, cool little hook in that moment, because you've slowed down, you've built up to that moment, and the second she gets it back, she can't act like it's back. I'm like, well, fuck, that's cool. You know what I mean? So find those story points that you have and those little twists that differentiate it, and write your setups to boom, and then this moment happens. Now I'm like, oh shit, then what? So does someone find out? Does she get recruited? Does she get in trouble? Like, we want to know kind of what's next. And so if you can fix those big 3 twists that are in there and find out those little setup moments that can get you that moments, one, it's going to feel like your pitch is really moving, but then again, it gives it some color and fluctuation, so it's not coming out as just like, here's my story and here's all my information, and then there's a government, and then they're blind, and then there's agents, and then there's things. You obviously know your story, you know your material, and now it's kind of like rehearsing the acting side of it, and like, okay, let me highlight these few moments, and like, boom, make a definitive beginning, a definitive middle, and a definitive end. And I think it addresses a lot of these things, because like you said, I want to watch the short. Like there's enough there doing it, and you can help with the performance of the pitch to get us there to that point of like, well, shit, this is an original idea, you know?
We're recording this, so you should take what he just did. That should be your pitch. Then I'm not kidding, because I want that. Okay, I'm very curious about that.
There's a lot of urgency to the way you tell it. But I also want to say, just for clarity here, you know, I don't like this format. I mean, I'm happy if it's helping people, that's great. But like, I don't like to criticize other people's artwork, and I think that the great thing about my position as a casting director is that people have come to me, they've been past this part already, and a lot of the times, because they're indies, I do a lot of indies, it's people that wouldn't last in the room pitching. But they said, I don't care, I need to tell this movie, and they say, you know, I'm gonna make it myself. And they come to me, and it's not my job to give criticism at all. It's my job to make it the best it can be with you know, elevating it with cast. And if you came to me with this, oh my God, I would be like, wow, I have to find a blind movie star. You know, I have to find a bunch of blind movie stars. And that's exciting, and that's providing a great opportunity, and we're breaking someone out, you know, in a way that's very, very exciting to me. So I would 100% cast this movie. And I think that when you do end up in a room, because it's inevitable and you have to pitch these things sometimes, it really is about the way Marc did it. It's about having that urgency and that passion, and doing it in a way where we're not judging so much like every story beat. We're saying these guys are like, there's something electric about them in the room, and I know that they are the authority on this story. And they're the ones who, it's about how they tell it. It's about the execution. Because our style is everything. And that goes back to what Aaron was saying. Like, show us your style, because there are so many movies that are some of my favorite movies. And you know, they come from a long line of movies like it. But it's about the way that person did it. It's about the way, you know, Brian De Palma, yeah, he's doing Hitchcock. But he's Brian De Palma. The way he does it is the style is the substance, and all of that. Just take all that.
That's great. That's a great
don't worry
discussion.
I said don't worry about some of those details at the end too. Yeah. I don't think you have to tell me about the mad scientist. Okay. I don't think any of that's needed. I think you just have to get us interested to want to read and hear about that, and then we can develop it. Because when I heard mad scientist, to be very blunt, my first inclination was, I kind of thought that might have been it. So let me get engulfed with the rest of the story, and then, because clearly you can't. I'm sure when you're trying to figure out your pitch right now, you were like, well, we need to tell them all this, but like, I don't have time to tell all that. And you're trying to figure out what to say. Less is more sometimes. So just kind of get us interested. That's kind of it, because again, we just need to read the script. Then once we read the script, we'll develop that story with you. So if we like it, I mean, because we just had this discussion where an ending on a movie that David and I are developing together, the ending was the mad scientist like, I kind of saw that coming. Like, how do we twist this? How do we make this a little unique? And we just developed that with, with those writers, and we're kind of working through that. So it's something to consider as well.
That's a great discussion. Can we give them
Say one more thing too, Jesse, for both of you, Jim and Jesse. This is not negativity that we're giving you at all. That's just not the way I roll as a film producer. So I want you to take this with heart, that we love you guys. We want you to succeed.
Also, the most important thing is that we could be wrong.
We could be wrong.
Like, I'm not, I mean, show me how I'm wrong. Like, that's the thing. You're the artist.
And one thing I want to just share, and I think I told John Lyons this. I was working on a film in Shreveport, Louisiana, and the casting director pitched a guy by the name of Lee Wanell. Now, I didn't know who Lee Wanell was. And then I found out later he was the writer, director, producer of Saw, And all of a sudden, this kid is he from New Zealand or Australia? Yeah. New Zealand. He came to Shreveport, Louisiana, and he played one of the attorneys in this film I was producing. He was brilliant. He got the Southern accent, but in sitting and getting to know him, he talked to me about pitching Saw. And it wasn't easy, and he was from New Zealand. And it was just sheer determination that he finally got it to somebody that got it, And here we are later with how many Saws have been made, and Lee Wanell's doing pretty darn good for himself.
And it's like you said, there's no authority here, and it's like, if we're not coaching you, I think the idea here is kind of like, we're like, oh yeah, that's great, good luck. If we don't say anything, it's a bigger problem, right? Like, the story, what's going on in there, and by bringing up Saw, I used to bring this up, and forgive me with this crowd that I don't know every single beat of the movie Saw, but look at your favorites and imagine that pitch. So I'm like, how fascinating. You're chained to a sink, you're locked in a room, there's a dead body in the middle, there's blood everywhere, and then suddenly you're like, you got 10 minutes to get out. You're like, done. Like, all right, I want to know how the hell this guy's going to do it, right? And then whether you say, and then he gets up from the middle, whether you give that up is up to you, but it's like you're presenting enough. Like, look at your favorite movies and be like, oh my God, like, right there's the pitch. It's right there. And you see it and kind of model and steal, because that's what most of Hollywood is, and you steal how they did it and incorporate it into your own,
Great, we're going to stop it right there. Can we give them a round of applause?
Thank you, guys.
Great panel discussion, great pitches, but the audience has a couple questions.
Yeah, sure. So we're just going to take the next 5 to 10 minutes here to just get through some of the audience questions and leave some time to mingle afterwards. So, first up, what is the best way to order the deck in, what structure? What should you start with?
Goodness, I mean, I think it just needs to immediately attract attention. So, we usually start with like a poster, key art of some sort that sets a tone, and then you're getting into what is it about, log lines, summary, quick imagery that's there, and then immediately you should jump into whatever your highest selling points are. I have access to this abandoned hospital. It's free. We get to shoot here. We have run of the place. Like, show those locations right off the bat. I have this actor. I've talked Marc into doing this. Show Marc, show his movies, you know what I mean? That kind of thing, boom, right there. So highlight those pieces that you have, and then you can get into basically the bigger text pieces. Just like imagery, and I know it sounds silly, but it really is. It's just imagery and tone and feeling and vibe at the beginning. So I'd say poster, quick summary log line, biggest selling points, and then who's making the movie, and get into more details as you move further.
And also, no more wish lists for actors, because I always have to tell them to take it out.
Yes.
You could have other actors' pictures in there, but describe the character. Don't say, we want, Anya Taylor-Joy for this. Because then when I go out to Chloe Moretz, she's offended that,
Yeah,
Anya
it should be
Taylor-Joy's
a
in
comp.
it. Yeah.
A comp is different than wish
Right.
list. So wish list is saying, these are the 5 actors we need to offer to. We will work with you on who you should offer
Yeah.
to. You should then say, I want Chloe Moretz from this movie. I want this character.
Yes,
Anna
the
Taylor-Joy
character
from
type.
which
Yeah.
fits the vibe of this person. That's a different thing than saying I want Anna Taylor-Joy.
Right.
Great.
And also, real quick, so from the distribution end, though, I will say that it's very, very likely we're going to come back and say, show us that wish list. But I think it's okay to, leave that off the deck because, again, we're probably going to ask it. So I think that way you have a clean deck that you can go to whomever you're showing it to, and eventually if it does go to a distribution company, we can just ask you at that point. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, so next question. Is there any bad advice that you commonly hear in the industry that you should maybe avoid?
Well, when I was starting out, I was usually the only woman in the room, and the bad advice I got is that women do not sell movies and people of color do not sell movies. And I said, I disagree with you 100%, and we are now seeing that they were all wrong, and I was right. But as the new girl, let's say, on the block, I had a really hard time convincing people of that. So that was very bad advice, and I'm hoping that we open this up to more diversity in Eerie, in our filmmakers, and our producers, directors, writers, actors, because every story is so important. It doesn't matter who you are or what you are. If it's a good story, it's a good story.
I love to hear that. So is there an element or a trope that you feel is overdone? Maybe should avoid altogether when coming up with a concept?
Aw.
We'll do one more.
I mean, I don't know. I think, I just made a movie that the original title was called Tropes. And we changed it to Scare Package because we took the tropes and we subverted them. So I think a trope exists because it was done effectively in the past and now it's been overdone. So just find a way to subvert the trope. If you know what they are, find a way to subvert those and do something different. It's a different spin, So I don't know that there's anything right now I will say there is a little pandemic fatigue in scripts. I will say that. There's just like, oh, these people locked in this space doing this thing, and it's like, okay, I would love to see my actors with masks off. So that's something that I'm, just kind of personally, and I know a lot of others are a little personally kind of tired of. So that's what we were talking about, kind of like towing that line with the previous pitch about where you're at. Just let people, the ambiguity I think is the right way to handle that for how you articulated that. But no, I mean, it's your passion. You might surprise us. If you're that passionate about it and it's interesting, the characters are interesting, and the high concept is interesting, then, let it have tropes.
I mean,
It's called show business for a reason, okay? It is a business, so maybe not for your first film, make it so finite that you're not gonna sell more than $10 million. Do you know what I mean? So maybe make it more universal. And that was in Martin Scorsese's notes that I read, is we still have to make money off your project. So don't make it so definite that only 12 people are going to be in the theater.
Well, and I think too, like you said, it's about the style, because I remember my film professor saying, absolutely nobody make a film about waking up at the end and it's all a dream, and then Inception came out like 2 years later, so. So what's a big red flag to look for in a pitch?
A lot of attachments, and you already know your budget. Yeah. We're the experts in those areas. So people come in, I mean, I've seen decks that look great, and they're like, yeah, it needs to be $5 million, and I've got my DP, this AD, this person, all here, and it has to be shot in, wherever, Virginia. And I'm like, okay, this is all a lot to take in. Why are all these things and it feels like it's just demands. And then you don't worry about your budget. Just kind of like pitch what you think it needs to be. And then we, as and in Blood Oath, like we have Ashley Sneed, who's one of my producers with Paper Street, and her and I will work together to develop what is the absolute minimum this could be made for and be viable and still be good. And then what is the ideal that we're looking for? And then and then you can make any movie for any amount of money. So Killers of the Flower Moon, right now, it looks like it's going to be the most expensive movie ever made, Scorsese's latest film. And I think that movie could have there's variations of that can be made for, $10 million, and it's going to be made for $300 million. So, don't worry about where that falls in the line.
And I also think that there is a big differential between independent films and studio films. I've worked on movies that are $100 million plus, but I've also done a film for under $1 million. So, we that's our jobs as film producers and directors, that we know who's going to be able to be. I love what you said, though, because people always come to me and say, I want Charlize Theron and Brad Pitt and George Clooney. And I said, yeah, me too. But You know, that's maybe not going to happen on this one.
Well, yeah, a lot of times what I do is I actually, if we have the time, and I do think it's the type of project that you know, would attract A-list talent, we'll take those big swings, and then if someone says yes, now that's going to inform the budget. Now we're going to make it for that price. But you have your tiers of actors, and once that first tier all passes, then you go down to the other tier, but that other tier is a different budget level. And then I don't know how many tiers you have, but eventually there's the pull the trigger tier where we're just casting the best actors regardless of value, and maybe I audition them and things like that, and you make your movie for $500,000. You know, that's kind of the way I go about movies these days more than ever, because, like I said, we're completely oversaturated with stuff, and you don't want it to get lost in the sea of VOD movies. But sometimes it's a privilege to even get lost in the VOD sea of movies. I'm happy to just make movies, and you know, when I see like one positive review on Letterboxd, I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. So it really depends on your priorities, and just being open to that, being flexible.
You know, when I listen to you guys, like, as we're kind of talking and asking these questions and about the red flag and everything else, it's like, what it boils down to is like, it's nice to have an awareness that, hey, this is a business. Yes, we know budget. We didn't write to something that needs $150 million to even have a shot to be made. But at the end of the day, like, sell us on you and your story. I want to know who I'm getting into business with, and I want to know the story's amazing. Like, know that thing inside and out. Like, sell us on the story, the budget, the cast. Other people are going to be getting in the game at that point. You know, it's just like, it's great to say what Aaron said. It's like, here's my 2 or 3 highlights. I have this hospital location that I know I can get for free, and we're going to shoot 80% of the movie there, and it's in Pennsylvania, which have a 25% tax credit. In a perfect, like that I think means a lot to someone listening. Otherwise, but that's a story point, because that's where the story takes place. So it does show you have an awareness of the business and financing and all these other things, but at the end of the day, you got 7 minutes. Like, tell us this story is amazing and we want to be with you more. Like I gave that example when we were in pitching with Amazon and Paramount. I went in 3 times. Like, boom, and then we leave behind. Great, they want to read the script. Then they call and be like, hey, Marc, come back in the room. Awesome, we can go further. Now we're getting into other episodes and other seasons and deep dive into characters, and you have to know all those things. But that first time in this first pitch, if the true question is what's the red flag, it's know your story and let these guys do what they do best. They'll put all the pieces together for you. If they want to get into business with you and help you tell your story, they'll do all that other heavy lifting.
So the common theme that I'm kind of hearing is kind of stay in your own lane. If you're a writer, write. If you're a producer, produce. And if you do budgets, you stay in that lane.
Well,
so don't.
I'm sorry, good.
Possible red flag could be coming in saying, I can do all these things, and all of a sudden, go ahead, Brandon.
Well, no, so on the budget note, you know, one thing that sometimes I've gotten pitches where the budget is incredibly high and just out of place for the market, which is a big red flag for me. So, like, for example, probably a couple years ago, I was pitched a killer slug movie, and they wanted to make it for $15 million. I said, oh, okay, well, I'm going to pass on that. But had they come to me and said, you know, we're still figuring out the exact budget, but, you know, I'm just thinking, like, you know, I want to be able to do this practically, make all the cool effects with the slugs, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, maybe it's like $1 million or under of that. You know, that's great. But just, like, maybe no, I guess I just wouldn't go in with a budget that's, you know, crazy, even if it's what you want or even if it's what you eventually get. I would try to think about, you know, as everyone else has mentioned, kind of think about the story, the characters, focus on that first. And if we start going down the line from there, you know, we can work on the budget. Like, maybe I'm really hooked on the concept, and I say, okay, well, your budget's off, but let's work on that. Can you make it for X? And they say yes. Okay, well, now we're in business. So yeah.
And have someone on your team that can answer that question, though. Yeah. Like, can you make it for X? You need to have an expert on your team that can answer that. Otherwise, you're putting yourself in a situation where we feel like you're wanting more than you're going beyond your means and what's there. That's why I think if you don't have someone who is a true line producer and has done this, and I will look up who that is, if you don't have that person to just say, hey, here's how I think we can save money. We have this hospital, I have this person, I have this location. but we're here to make it as inexpensively as possible that you tell us makes sense. Now I'm interested if the pitch is good, if the idea is good, and there's that, because now you're already telling me you want to work with me, right? Then I'm going to ask you questions, and a lot of times in sales, they talk about getting buying questions. So you want us to be asking buying questions. So how would you do that? How would you do that? So if you did this, because what we're saying is if you had the money that we can help you get, how would you spend it? That's a buying question. So think about how those things transpire.
Yeah, it also works the other way. Sorry to,
go ahead.
You know, like we're talking about filmmakers coming with unrealistic expectations. I need to make this slug movie for $15 million. I had it happen to me the other way around, and when I was making my first movie, I would tell everyone, like, look, guys, I made short films for nothing. I made Western short films, period short films. I did it for no more than $5,000. Give me $50,000, I can make you a feature. And that was kind of how I approached everything, and everyone was like, you're crazy. You'll never be able to do that. This is a period piece. It takes place in the South. You want to shoot it in LA. This makes no sense. You need $3 million at least. And everyone was telling me that, but everyone had their different magic number. So I knew that it was kind of arbitrary because every line producer was telling me a different number. And in the end, I raised $20,000 and I shot half the movie with $20,000. And then because that half was so good, I got investors to put in more money, and I ended up making the movie for $150,000. But still, it was $150,000. It wasn't $3 million. So I think that, you know, any movie can be made for any amount of money. It's just a matter of how, and it's a matter of, you know, we were talking about this before, like you're gonna compromise, but it's a matter of like if you think that's worth it, and if you think you could still make it without compromising too much.
I think the last thing I'll talk about this is, it's great to have a strong ego, but don't let it get in the way of your project. When I was hired by Disney to film the first Cheetah Girls movie, we were going to shoot it in Los Angeles. And then Canada came out with this huge tax incentive, and the dollar amount worked for us. So this film was supposed to be New York in the summer, and we shot Toronto in the winter. And I mean, it was freezing, but those girls just kicked butt, and we had to CGI. You know, when it's so cold that the air, you know, we had to CGI all of that out. And at first, I said, I don't know if this is going to work in Toronto, but my ego didn't get in my way. And when they showed me how it could, and with CGI, it worked. And that was the hugest movie for Disney Channel that they had ever done. So just remember that you have a strong ego, but the word no doesn't mean never. It just means let's compromise a little bit on the ideas and work with us because we want you to do it.
That's a great ending right there. And so I'm just going to plug in real quick. Make sure you come back next year for pitch competitions. So this is the first of the Horror Fest Film Festival. We're going to do it again next year, and I'll leave it to Jess to close us out.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. Please, if you like to see programs like this, feel free to make a donation to the Film Society at filmsocietynwpa.org. We thank you all for coming, and thanks again to VNET for allowing us to host this event in your space. Make sure you stick around and check out Jesse and Jim's film at 3 p.m. today. Thank you very much.
And thanks to panel. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone. You know, it's such an exciting time for you guys, for us. Like, you know, it used to be, you go say 10 or 15 years ago, the hurdle was like equipment, distributors, like the phones are amazing right now. Like there's platform that the content is king. If you own good material, someone will buy it.
And
it's such an exciting time.
But I want to thank Marc for coming back to Erie. He knows where he came from, as I do. I want to thank him for coming back.
It was a lot more work for the guys who flew in. Yeah.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Oh, and also I acquired Unearthed, if you don't know, and I think it's playing at 6 o'clock. So please go out, support John, Marc, and go watch it.
Thank you everyone for being here. I want to let you know about our web address, filmerie.com. If you want to find locations, you want to find crew, you want to register yourself for our databases, please go to filmerie.com.